6 excellent GIS faculty members who will share their latest research and teaching expertise through a series of the Lightning Talks. So please, we have faculty from College of Environmental Design, Huntley College of Agriculture, College of Letters, Arts and Social Sciences, College of Business Administration, College of Science, and College of Engineering. Please join us as they delve into the fascinating world of geospatial technologies, sharing their ongoing research projects and innovative teaching approaches. Right. So we have, starting with Dr. Wei-Min Lee. You already are looking at the presentation file. So welcome, Dr. Wei-Min Lee.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wei-Min Lee. It's such a great pleasure to be here with you today. And it's my pleasure to also see that, the campus GIS activity coming back in action. And I really want to appreciate, all the committee members in organizing this event. I want to thank the panelists. I know that they're working out and for setting up such an amazing and critical conversation prep platform for what I'm going to talk about next. And actually, before I get into the slides, I want to share that, here we, faculty or students in environmental design, personally, I'm a professor in landscape architecture, and we are also very, kind of concerned about ethnic issues involved in GIS and geodesign. And just last night, my colleague and I submitted an article, the title of which is Big Data Serving Those Most in Need? And our finding was, the answer was no, but I would like to share a little bit about, how we did it. So basically, we set up a framework to describe a large number of data issues that we found, over the past many years, in the landscape architecture program. So we documented data issue involved in, design and planning project involving various type of communities. So we look at all the cases that, we have been documenting over past 15 years. And in those projects, geodesign was heavily used. GIS data was heavily used in helping communities in making, sustainable decisions. And in those documents, we document the data issue that we run into. And basically, our findings were, we document like more than 37 type of data issue that in, all these projects run into. And we find that, disadvantaged community are disproportionately affected by these data issue. I mean, all the data issue that we found amount all the 37, it literally cover, almost every issue that the panelist was talking about. Whether it is, technology gap barriers that community members are not able to fully take advantage of GIS technology, including data granularity issue, including spatial temporal gaps, including that the data that are available from public data sources are not mapping actually what the community need for them to make, a proper decision in their communities. So we document all those issues and, and using a case study approach to prove, the answer to that question was no. So, I just want to share that with all of you because I feel that, it's really a hot kind of topic right now in, ethical GIS and ethical geodesign. Anyway, going back to, my little 5 minutes, slides. And so, I want to share a little bit of work that we, faculty and students, do in the College of Environmental Design. And I want to share our work in using GIS as an approach to help, disadvantaged communities throughout the state of California and beyond in achieving, equitable and sustainable outcomes. And just a little bit of background knowledge in case that you're not from landscape architecture. Landscape architecture is the art and science of problem solving for issues related to human natural systems, from climate change to environmental justice and many more. And geodesign is an important school of thought that offer a methodological framework for environmental design and related disciplines, and, including those from civil engineering and geography. They do use geodesign as an approach as well. And to embrace geospatial science and technologies for better decision making and problem solving. And so, here I'm gonna just quickly show several types of projects that we usually do in environmental design. So this is a systematic mapping project that we, a student and faculty have done, to map the major landscape architecture issue that are affecting our practice, but also the larger society, So we map, this is kind of the statewide project that we map, all the factors related to climate change issues, environmental justice issues, ecosystem health, social justice, water issues, and natural hazard, and so on. So to understand what communities are more disproportionately affected by these issues, and you can see some of the dots, there's a good bunch of dots on those maps. Actually, they are projects that we have been doing in the past 50 years in the Department of Landscape Architecture. Ever since, the 60s when GIS data is far from, advanced as today, some of you may heard about Emma Carr, who was a professor from University of Pennsylvania. He was considered the father of GIS by environmental designers. Geographers may argue about that, but anyway. At Cal Poly Pomona we have John T. Lai, and I know many of you may know about the Center of Regenerative Study, and he was the founder of the center, and he used a lot of these thinking, geodesign thinking, and also he promoted geospatial technology back then when he was doing regenerative design. So anyways, just want to make that connection. So, we heavily involve communities in our geodesign projects. And basically, in almost every single of these projects that show as dot on the maps, we engage local community. The way that landscape architects using GIS is never, just look at the data points. We always work together with the community that we are serving. Here on this picture, you can basically see, some of the work that we're doing actually this semester. In the Master of Landscape Architecture program, we now have 5 student teams working with disadvantaged communities throughout California, including a Hispanic Latinx community, agricultural community in the Central Valley, including one the Indian tribal community in Eastern Seattle, and also several communities in the Los Angeles metropolitan area. So we help these communities when working together with them, and we use GIS and geodesign as a tool to communicate between the student group and the community. We learn from each other. We create experiential maps to document the real experience of the community rather than relying on public data. So definitely we do look at those as well, but we always double check. And the work that we are doing, we think that is important because we're not just relying on public data that were created through this top-down approach. Experts, top decision makers are deciding what to map rather than the community that that are being affected. Involved in this process. So, we are kind of using a bottom-up approach in terms of geodesign practice. Anyway, so I know that my time is limited, so these are just additional projects that we use geospatial technology. We use GIS to be integrated with public engagement, to model, to develop, large infrastructure system. This one is green infrastructure system, stormwater management network for the Los Angeles region. We were in collaboration with Los Angeles County, City of Los Angeles Bureau of Sanitation. We bring these projects projects to more sub-regions and local community. This one is in the Gateway City. We work with local residents using mapping approach to understand their real experience on the ground and document all those information as well. And we use that to inform our decision rather than just relying on what the data that we can usually download from data providers. So we generate our own data through working with community members. We also conduct international collaboration in terms of using GIS in understanding climate impacts. So this is we kind of represent Cal Poly Pomona in the international geodesign collaboration, which involve scholar researchers and practitioners from all over the world. So this is our project kind of in contribution to climate resiliency throughout the globe. Anyway, so in terms of teaching, in landscape architecture, we have been committed to improve, learning experience for students in terms of geospatial technology, from data to technology, and we also build our, drone program to connect students to the more new kind of a technology available out there, and the drone program that we have has been used for several years, and it's actually getting outdated. So for several years in my UAV class, and we developed interactive, participatory design, geodesign procedures, to remotely, especially during the pandemic, to remotely engage the public and help them to share their input to our geodesign practice. Anyway, and then certainly we're also doing some advanced research as faculty and student teams. We use AI and machine learning to measure the detailed, physical setting and also experiential data that we can learn from communities as well. So anyway, so I know that my time is running out, so I'm going to stop right there. Thank you all. If you have any questions, you can send me an email, wli@cpp.edu. Thank you very much.
I must say that was awesome. I have no idea that you could do so much. So, just to set the expectations here, what I saw was the extreme end of the spectrum. And what I'm doing here, I'm just a beginner in GIS. So this is how we implement. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Chitra DeBoss from College of Agriculture, Apparel Merchandising and Management Department, and here is how I stumbled upon ArcGIS. So I teach the business part of fashion industry. Maybe there are applications of GIS, but that's not what I actively do. I use consumer tapestry segments to teach students about targeting and segmentation, segmentation and targeting of customers, fashion customers and different product customers. And ESRI used to be one of the platforms I used. It was available for free a couple of years ago, then they logged it, and then it came under ArcGIS, and now here we are. So I was so excited to see that we have the login and access to all of the data. So the way I use ArcGIS is I use it in my junior level course, and to teach, as I just mentioned, custom analysis to my students. And I use just a little bit of it, which is Business Analyst app, right over there in ArcGIS. So ArcGIS, ESRI has it has a lot of data set. It uses demographic data sets, multiple, to create consumer clusters using cluster analysis in US, actually, and around the world. And it has created 67 distinct markets of tapestry segments, which can be used to define people in any geographies in US. So, and it also defines consumer clusters and geographies and their behavior, what lifestyles they live, what products they enjoy, media, driving, all of that information. So if I type in city code, it'll give me that consumer cluster analysis information. So the way, and it creates it has great reports around the behaviors of these tapestry segments. So the type of data included in ESRI tapestry is demographic, socioeconomic, behavioral data. And how it is used in my course is to create and evaluate a new location, a city. For instance, this is an example, a retail store franchisee can use this workflow to analyze the population density and consumer habits in a community and check or analyze customers in 10 to 20 minutes driving distance and what behaviors they engage in, what kind of products they like, so on and so forth. And using that analysis, then students have to come up with a suitable store location for a product category that they are focusing on. So in my course, the assignment, my students use it for about 2 to 3 weeks, ArcGIS, and they propose a new fashion store. And they come up with their own products, they get and do analysis. For example, athleisure wear, they decide a target market for that product. Here, for example, athleisure wear, 13 to 35 age group, primarily females, and then they define what kind of products they would like to offer to the customer. Then, using ArcGIS data, they evaluate multiple sites, and they are restricted to California, but this data is large enough to evaluate any geography in the US, definitely. They evaluate multiple cities on demographic and behavioral parameters and create reports, and then analyze multiple cities to suggest a location. So the way it happens in Business Analyst is you can create, you can pick a location, create infographics, classic report. It's just a few clicks. It's very super user-friendly and easy for students to follow. Pin a location, create attribute reports for consumers, and you can define you want a 5, 10, 20-mile radius. And beyond that, they have data on, as I said, the consumption behaviors. So in this particular example, my students were looking for markets for sustainable products, so consumers who are interested in sustainably procured or products sustainable products made of sustainable fibers. So they looked at consumer behavior related to healthy living, healthy eating, if they're also activewear. So if consumers in that cities are involved in active lifestyle, they like to go yoga, exercise, etc. And they also looked at how much consumers pay for certain product categories. All of that data was analyzed. Oops. Using just the embedded data in ArcGIS, and that would create reports for them, percentages, so it'll give an indication of the percentage of consumers within certain cities or cluster of cities which will be a suitable target market, and then they can compare those percentages to propose a new store location. It creates inbuilt reports, downloadable Excels, pretty cool for teaching a class. And it creates reports like this. Well, my students have to do their own reports, but these reports can be downloaded and presented for any projects. So download reports. So that is how I use ArcGIS. One of my colleagues is actually using ArcGIS, well, not ArcGIS, but GIS to locate wool farms in California. So there is a poster presentation out there, which one of my colleagues is using, where GIS is used in my department. So thank you, everyone, and hope you enjoy it.
Hello. Hey, everyone. Thank you for sticking around to the end here. We still have a few more presentations. So my name is Gabriel Granco. I'm assistant professor of geography in the Department of Geography and Anthropology. I'm also the GIS minor coordinator for our campus. So if you are interested in doing the GIS minor, come talk with me. We can talk and plan the classes for you. Today, I'm also going to share one research that has been done with students on a research lab that we run in the Department of Geography. So the name of the lab is the Sustainability and Land Change Research Lab. And in this project, we are looking for how humans are using the environment, using land, but mostly also how climate change can interact with those points. So here, just to show a little bit of the students that are working with me, on the top figure there, we have our first meeting in this semester. And it's interesting that after the pandemic, we have this hybrid element, right? So there is students joining by Zoom, but there is also a student there in person. And it has been very interesting to leverage GIS in that component because we can continue to work and do collaborative research even when we are not in the same room. So that's very nice. And one of the purposes of the lab is to promote a real-world experience. So one of the talks that we had earlier today talk about how in the real world, data is not clean, it's not easy to work. You actually need to work with your data until it can work with you. So that's something that they, on the lab, the students learn that, and they learn by doing. So they learn in practice, and we are very successful in the sense that the students are continue on their path. They have been presenting at regional conferences. So we have here the bottom picture is one student presenting at a regional conference where she actually won the award for the best presentation, the best paper in undergraduate level. And the last picture is a student presenting at the National Conference for Geography at the American Association of Geography, the AAG. And this was in Denver, and he was presenting an oral presentation there. So that was, I was very proud of that because it's not very frequent that an undergraduate would go to that level to present oral presentation, sorry. So let's talk about the research that I have been conducting in the lab, and the work that we are currently doing is looking at specialty crops in California. So we want to know where we are growing those crops. So for that, we can use a remote sensing product that already classify land use and show us where specialty crops, such as grapes, almonds, and all those, are being produced. So on the map there, you're somewhat seeing in green is where those crops were being produced in 2008. And in purple, you're seeing the expansion of that. So we are using more land for specialty crops. That's because there are a few advantages to produce specialty crops in California. There is also the economic incentive for that. They are bringing a lot of, more than $21 billion as reported. So our goal was to think, is that location the best location for us thinking about the long term? What, when climate change, the impacts of climate change, interfere with that? And that was a work that has been published with the students as co-authors. So if you scan the QR code, you're going to see the paper there. And the specific objective that we had for that was to develop a spatial suitability model, and then to see what would be the suitability in the future. And future here is the middle of the century, so by 2040, 2060, and end of the century, so 2080 to 100. And we were trying to see, like, how can we communicate that topic? For this, so we got more into like a little more advanced GIS techniques. We start with training the students in different manipulation of the data. They start with point data, and they convert that to rasters. They ran machine learning and some more advanced techniques. So the main method that we use is called the species distribution model. And in that case, we implemented the max-int algorithm. And what we need for that, we need to know where one event is happening. So we need to know the geographical location. So for us, that was where specialty crops were being produced. And then we need to know what are the biotic and abiotic environments that they are using. So that was our climatic data sets that we are bringing here. And then we can look at that in the space and then in time. Right? So just getting into some of the initial results that we obtained, and that is also on that publication. We can see here the different, we look at 4 different crops. So almonds is on the top, then pistachio, and in the bottom line, we have walnuts and citrus. So in darker green, we are seeing high suitability, and in this yellowish color is low suitability. And this is considering the current conditions, current climate conditions. Our model was really good in capturing where is actually happening, but it's also predicting locations that are not currently producing. So we can see in pistachio, for instance, is showing up a lot on the close to where is Death Valley. So you can see like that darker green. That is a negative, but it's also a positive for our model because we want the model to be flexible enough to predict new locations. So given the statistics, we consider the model to have a good agreement with our initial data set, what we could then run projection scenarios. So I'm going to just showing here the result for the end of the century. And the colors here indicate that green is where we continue to have suitability. Purple, we are losing suitability, meaning that climate change is modifying so much of the conditions on that environment that the current technology for producing that crop will not be suitable. We need new developments. Then in brownish is like where we are gaining suitability, and gray is just like non-suitable. So if you look there, for the 4 crops, only pistachio is actually keeping a good amount of the suitability that they currently have. And even the pistachio result, that was the one result that we are less comfortable with because pistachio is very difficult to model because it has a 2-year cycle that sometimes the data doesn't capture as well. So we have a note on the paper saying that pistachio is something that we need to continue to explore. But it's interesting to note that almonds and walnuts is one of the, probably the 3rd largest economic sector in the agriculture for California. And we are mostly seeing that we're not gonna have like suitable locations considering the same technology. So what that indicates for us is the need to develop a new management for our land, new management for agricultural production, and also to consider if that's our location that we should continue to use for almonds. So we need to make some important decisions now. So how this research is going to continue to expand in the future? We are working in collaboration with faculty in the Department of Plant Science, Aerospace Engineering, and Computer Science to look on how we can use UAV imagery, so improving the resolution of our results to incorporate that. So right here we are showing you, I'm showing you results for UAV for the Spadra farm. So we are seeing here the NDVI results. So this first one is showing like where vegetation is growing well in the farm, where it's not, and the different visualizations there. And we want to expand that to now bring suitability analysis at that level. Moreover, from the interaction of the students, they are bringing topics that they would like to explore. And one thing that they were discussing was, what is the role of water, and what are we doing about water considering climate change? So we are coming up with new questions and thinking about ways that we can incorporate that into the research and then in the research labs. So with that, thank you all. And if you want to reach out, my email is around there. And you can also look at the QR code. Thank you.
So my name is Mehmet Kamali. I'm an assistant professor of GIS and College of Business. And I took a little bit different approach here. I wanted to talk about my own projects, but I thought, let's talk about the students' projects for this session instead of me talking about my own interests. I want to show you what students are doing because I know they didn't have a chance to present their projects here. So we are going to see the existing projects. My students are working in two classes I'm teaching right now. One is location analytics and business, which is in the location analytics in business, which is a course I created actually when I joined Cal Poly in 2019. And the second one is the Intro to Business Analytics graduate level course. And for both of these groups, they don't have any background in GIS. They didn't learn about the GIS and they use it in the course. I love your presentation about the usage of the GIS and business analysts for non-GIS students, and that's what we are about to do here. We are looking at the students' projects in the College of Business. And before I get to those projects, just a little bit background. My background is civil engineering, land surveying, and I had a very in-depth passion for GIS. So I took 2 masters in GIS, one back home and one here in the US, and then I got my PhD in information system. And there I realized the need for School of Business to have some locational courses, and then that was missing. And I created a couple of courses, University of Redlands, and I came here, created a course on GIS. So the activities that I'm mostly involved at the College of Business are around 3 different areas. One is the curriculum development. As I mentioned, I created a course. I gave myself a lot of trouble of creating a new course, try to find a place to present it in the College of Business. And I also offered different workshops, GIS workshops, specifically for people in the College of Business, staff, faculty, and students. It was free. They had to come to 3 to 4 sometimes different sessions, and they learn about the concept, and it was a 1-hour hands-on workshop, so it was a kind of full package of skills and knowledge packed into 3-4 sessions. And then we're also doing, as a co-director for Single Center for Innovative Analytics, we're doing a lot of community projects. Dr. Kumar, who was here with Dr. Orlando, they worked with the city of Pomona on the homelessness project. That was one of them. Also worked with the city of LA on a project during the COVID to provide some services in terms of delivery of the goods for the senior population. And so these are projects that are directed for specific communities. And lastly is the industry partnerships. We can't really succeed in the current situation if you don't have any industry partners. We get these tools for free. That's great, right? We also need to be able to provide solutions for industries. Why? Because students, when they graduate, they wanted to be able to present themselves. If we can provide the courses and school can provide maybe certifications or other things that students can put on their resume when they get to the interview process, the industry partner, the hiring manager, will instantly look at the resume as a very strong candidate. So these are things I'm doing at the College of Business. I don't want to bore you with this, but first project that a couple of my students are working right now. There's a story map for that. There's a presentation, recorded presentation as well. But it's about the very interesting timing, right? That issue happened in Interstate 10. They were looking at the air quality and the traffic congestion. It's a very well-known problem. It's a spatial temporal problem that could be analyzed, but it has to be seen through the little more technical prospects of using spatial temporal data, looking at the patterns, not only at the space, but also at the time. The second project, still a spatial temporal project, but the frequency of the time is different. It's about the crimes. And the result of that would be also used from another stakeholder's perspective. It's important that the policymakers know where the crimes are happening, when the crimes are happening, also see the trends of change. If there is a new crime is happening at some point, at some place, what would be done, what can be done? Do they need to increase the patrolling? Do they need to think about the maybe community engagement? Some other surveillance systems could be put in place. So all the things that could drawn from this type of projects, looking at the crime data, which is available, but also finding those patterns, finding those hot spots or sometimes cold spots of the crime, but would be helpful. I think this is an area that many of us are feeling very closely connected. Package theft. We have seen an increase, specifically when we get to the holiday season, because there is going to be a larger number of parcels being sent. And this is going to be an ongoing project. This isn't going to be an ongoing problem. How we can possibly first find the areas that is usually happening. Second, possibly getting the right data to be able to see the patterns based on the type of packages. For example, what is the type of home and what's the type of package that was stolen? What was the time of the stealing? So all of these could be possible attributes that could be placed into the analysis. But the problem, the main problem here is compared to the other two was that data is not accessible easily, right? So the way we can collect data, one of them would be through the Nextdoor. We can find, okay, the reports of people saying, okay, my package was lost from my porch, and we see the location, usually the estimate location, not the exact location. So there are issues in terms of the data that has to be handled. And I believe that if we can give citizens some reporting tool as a, let's say, city organization to report those thefts, might be possible to find community measures to help to hopefully fight against these criminal activities. But this is an ongoing issue, and then it's unfortunately happening, and sometimes it has drastic change. The impacts could be even dangerous, because if someone's ordered a package of grocery, or sometimes their maybe medicine, and it's been stolen, that could put them in actual danger. So this is not just about the electronics we buy, it's about a little bit more of that type of thing. Air quality index, another example of the projects that my students are doing. In a second, I'm going to switch to another type of projects. So air pollution, very, of course, well-known problem that is in geography. It depends on the attributes of geography, place, as well as the patterns of transportation. Usage of the public transportation could help to reduce that, but at the same time, students were working on what are the communities that they are in the area of high population, high air pollution, and sometimes in classes of demographic that might be seen as a little bit more endangered, or maybe they don't have access to their own cars, and then they have to live in those areas, and how we can help them. So these are some of the undergraduate projects. Another project was done by 3 students related to the healthcare by counties, just finding patterns in terms of the policies that are in place at county level, which would be helpful for the county measures to see what can be done in terms of providing maybe incentives for organization in those counties. But The a little bit similar but different perspective project on the crime is about the inequality of the safety. The group of students that are working on these projects, they're looking at the crime rate in the city of Chicago and see how different demographics they are seeing a little bit different types of and rates of crime. So they are doing not just the spatial temporal analysis, but also breaking down to different groups and see how they are different. So that provides a little bit different perspective. As you can see, you can look at data from different angles, and that's what matters for the GIS, I would say, folks, because you always have access to some form of data, and then you may end up with some questions and problems you want to solve. But the way you can go into the tool and provide the visualization and create those maps would help to see a little bit different insight at the end of the road. Storytelling, which I focus in my, I would say, all of my courses that I'm involving some form of visualization, is the main component, because the way you tell your story, the way you emphasize on the visualization dimensions, help the audience or decision maker to make a better and more effective decision. In these projects, I'm focusing on those aspects as well as just creating a maps. What is the effective map? How they can hopefully provide that, and then the stakeholder could benefit from that type of example. Retail industry, customer segmentation, looking at different types of customers on online and in-store type of transactions, finding different groups and putting that on the map. And this is another interesting project, just ongoing, the CDC data in terms of the hospital readmissions, finding out based on the type of kind of diagnosis, what is the readmission rate at different locations, different hospitals, and that what they're doing, because it incurs a lot of costs for the hospitals, and at the end of the day, the patient's service quality should be enhanced, and then what they wanted to do is to find the optimized solution, not only try to help the hospital, but also at the same time, if the patient is going to be readmitted, that means that they did not receive the good quality service. So the mapping service that is going to be created here helps to see those issues in place, specifically targeted at hospitals that they have high readmission rates. I think this is the last one. So we know that the type of smoking is changing, and people in today's age, we cannot ignore the fact that they're using the higher maybe types of e-cigarettes, other types of smoking devices. And this project is focused on the relationship of those type of consumption with the health factors. And of course, the data is not as prevalent as the traditional tobacco, but then finding those areas that I don't want to say younger generation, but just different types of generation are using different types of cigarettes might be insightful from health purposes as well as education perspective, because you can educate people to be able to know what are the consequences of using these e-cigarettes or vaping devices compared to the traditional ones, because we don't have a lot of research on this. This is an existing project. And don't want to talk about the COVID too much, but we know that after COVID, the real estate market is a turbulence, and this project is aimed to find areas that people can still live without going broke, but they can also work, not just remotely, but go back to the office location. So there are, in non-traditional places, in areas that are more affordable, but at the same time, they can work in a distance that is reasonable for them to travel. So this project is aimed to find those areas and provide suggestions for the future home buyers, and they can find those areas. And I think one of the presenters today actually showed some of those examples, finding those extremes or finding those thresholds, see where you can afford and then justify, okay, I can go live in San Bernardino and then drive maybe 45 minutes. I can live with that. Or I want to live in Manhattan Beach and then just go broke. So there are two extremes that you can find and tell your story based on that. So thank you for listening. And these are the projects students are doing. I'm not doing anything, just sharing those results. But I'm really glad that I'm teaching these classes at Cal Poly, and also I'm teaching a couple of classes at San Antonio College, and students are doing a fantastic job, and hopefully this type of events help them to even share their projects even more in the future. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Jeff Marshall from the Geological Sciences Department, and I'm going to share with you guys a couple of examples of how my students and I have used GIS in our paleoseismology research in New Zealand. We were part of a NSF-funded project for 4 years called SHIRE, Seismogenesis at Hikurangi Integrated Research Experiment, and this was a collaboration between 5 US universities and the New Zealand Geological Survey known as GIS Science. So the Cal Poly Pomona role in this research project was to study coastal uplift generated by large earthquakes along the east coast of New Zealand's North Island. This is an area known as the Hikurangi subduction margin, where the Pacific plate is sliding underneath the Australian plate and generating stress and strain that result in large earthquakes. So we had 6 primary field areas shown by the boxes here, and in each one of those areas we targeted a type of landform known as a marine terrace. Marine terraces are essentially ancient shorelines that have been uplifted by the subduction and earthquake process, uplifted above modern sea level. And you can use marine terraces to study the uplift process over 2 different time scales. One is a short time scale that preserves individual earthquake uplift events as several meter high benches or steps in the landscape near the modern shoreline. And then over a longer term time scale, you can track the mountain building process by looking at how these marine terraces are uplifted into the landscape over tens to hundreds of thousands of years. So as part of this project, I had a research experience for undergraduates program that funded a number of Cal Poly Pomona geology students to travel to New Zealand to conduct field work with our colleagues and our GNS counterparts. So these are some photos from the 2017 field season. I had 2 undergrads from the geology department, Janine Anjanant and Jessica Valenciano, pictured there at upper left, and then some photos of them working with our research colleagues in the field. In that year, we focused on an area called the Southern Wairarapa Coast, and GNS Science provided us with a brand new aerial LiDAR data set. So this is high-resolution laser mapping conducted from aircraft, and so my students took this data set and loaded it into ArcGIS and created these beautiful digital terrain models that show what the landscape looks like in this area. To confirm that the LiDAR data set was properly georeferenced relative to the vertical sea level datum, we did some field surveying using real-time kinematic GPS. And that's a technique that involves a roving GPS antenna shown on the left, and then a stable base station antenna on the right. And the 2 communicate with one another to generate high-resolution surveying. And so these are my students moving through a field across several of these earthquake-uplifted terraces near the coast, and they're following the pathway shown in green down on the LiDAR image at the bottom, A to A prime, and that produced the survey profile up at the top, profile A, and you can see how high resolution this is. The first little bump kind of over on the left is where we had to cross over a fence And then you can see several of the earthquake uplifted terraces. And then there's a little place up above where you see kind of multiple data points there. That's where we had to walk laterally along a road to get from one field to the next. The students then worked with the LiDAR data set in ArcGIS and drew a parallel line, B to B prime, to our field transect and produced the other profile, profile B. And you can see how the two profiles are almost identical to one another. They're coming from two different data sets, the RTK GPS and the LiDAR. And so this confirmed to us that the LiDAR data set is accurately reflecting the real world. So then that allows us to take the LiDAR in ArcGIS and continue mapping these terraces remotely, essentially on the computer, drawing additional profile lines to create elevation profiles of the uplifted terraces, and then mapping them in color. So these are the products the students created. So I returned in 2018 with another group of students, 2 undergrads, Caleb Miller and Jen Hamill, and then 2 grad students, Noah Zobe and Chris White. And we continued mapping earthquake uplifted terraces in several other areas of the coast, including the northern Wairarapa coast. This is an area where the LiDAR data set was fairly narrow, so you can see how the students have laid it over the SRTM shuttle radar topography mission data, and you can see strikingly how the difference in the resolution between the SRTM and the high-resolution airborne LiDAR. We also collected marine shell samples in this area for radiocarbon dating of the earthquake uplifted terraces. So this gives you ages of when the earthquakes occurred. And so these are some of the LiDAR, GIS products, the bare LiDAR on the left, terrace mapping overlaid on that in the middle, and then an addition of a Google Earth photo in the background to extend the image inland, and then the details of the radiocarbon age results and stratigraphic columns that were measured at the sample sites. I returned again in 2019 with some of the same students, Jen, Caleb, and Chris, and then we were joined by a new graduate student, Emmons McKinney. Emmons was a drone pilot, so you can see in the upper right photo, she's flying her Mavic Pro over the field area to collect some images of the field sites we were working. That year we worked in an area called Cape Kidnappers, and again, a beautiful digital terrain model here created by the students using the aerial LiDAR in ArcGIS. And so that year we focused mostly on the older, actually on both the earthquake uplifted terraces near the coast and the older Pleistocene terraces up in the landscape. We collected additional samples for age dating, volcanic ashes for tephrochronology, and marine sediments for luminescence. And these are the GIS products, the map on the left from Emmons McKinney's master's thesis with the LiDAR, gray LiDAR background, and then the colored terrace maps, locations of samples. The map on the right are the detailed radiocarbon information on the Holocene shell samples, and you can see the grouping of the ages in the northern part of the field area, all lined up with one another mostly, and then another grouping in the southern part of the field area that have a little bit more scatter. These are 2 different earthquake uplift events, a couple of thousand years apart. So we collected similar data across all 6 of these field areas using ArcGIS to map and locate the information, and then that data will be added to the existing paleoseismic record for the North Island of New Zealand. So this is scientific evidence that can be used to inform the public of the hazard of large earthquakes and tsunami in this region. So thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to see all those wonderful presentations from my colleagues, which range from agriculture to earthquake, from environment to business information system. So I believe we are all impressed with the power and the versatility of GIS. If you think you had enough about the power of GIS already, please don't do so. Please at least allow me to add one more example of those wonderful application of GIS, which is the GIS in traffic safety. So for traffic safety, actually, it has lots of methods and strategies to enhance traffic safety, which include the educational-oriented methods, engineering-oriented methods, and some emergency-oriented methods. But the common among those three, among those three methods is the GIS, the use of GIS. So you can tell, okay, in traffic safety field, okay, without GIS, we can do almost nothing to enhance traffic safety. So for you, maybe GIS is explained as the geographic information system, but for me, I consider it as the guardians in safety. Okay, so that's the GIS, a new nickname in our field. So for GIS in traffic safety, you can see there is a long list of applications, which include accident analysis and hotspot. Mahadad, you mentioned the hotspot, but that hotspot is for crime. And for accidents, we also have the hotspot. And the road network, emergency response, right? These days, one of the hottest topic is the fire damage in I-10. Okay, so, the Caltrans actually respond to this emergency situation very well, and they, in the news they say, okay, they probably can restore the I-10 within 3 to 4 weeks. Let's see. I think it doesn't matter. I mean, I think GIS plays an important role behind the scene. Okay, for the restoration of the I-10. And you can see a long list of others. And now, this is one of the examples of the hotspot illustration. It's, I got it from online. It's used by, it's posted by LA Times to demonstrate the, hotspot clustering of the bicycle data. Okay, bicycle-related, pedestrian-related accident data. So you can see the clearer, spatial clustering as demonstrated in this map. And as far as I know, after the post of this image, LA Times gets lots of feedback from the surrounding communities. So you can see with the help of GIS. All right, the general public can also get involved and to provide their, comments about the traffic safety. And these slides demonstrate the work the students and we have done in the past. Okay, so we just show the spatial and the temporal interaction about the county-related crashes. Okay, we have 58 counties in California, so we just use the powerful function of GIS to demonstrate the spatial temporal correlation as shown in this figure. Okay, we can clearly see that the neighboring counties, they have a similar spatial tendency in terms of the clustering of accident. Okay, so this is some of the examples of traffic safety research we have done in the past, relying on GIS, and we also get students actively involved into our traffic safety related data inside the classroom, outside the classroom, and so on. Due to the the more than 10 years of research in these fields. And just last week, we get recognized, the Cal Poly Pomona and myself, we get recognized by Traffic Safety Summit, okay? I was presented with the award by NHTSA, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administrator, the director over there. So I would like to take advantage of this opportunity to dedicate this award to our hardworking students, to my colleagues, and to my previous dean, Baski. Without their support, we cannot do anything. Thank you all for your strong support. And this way we can promote our school's name across the California. So thank you, and thank you especially. I would like to dedicate the award to GIS. Without GIS we cannot get it. I forgot that one. Thank you everybody for your present. Thank you.
Thank you to our 6 faculty members for sharing their inspiring project and then classroom teaching with all the involvement of our students. And then I'm sure that these lightning talks, a little bit stretched, but have sparked new ideas and then motivate us to explore the potential of GIS in our own work and then our own studies as well. So as we conclude this GIS Day event, actually we have one more thing happening in the backside actually. So the Dr. Wei-Min Lin and also Dr. the Medard, Kumali, and then he and she present some demonstration. We just planned to do that, but rainy outside. So she brought her drone inside here. They don't fly inside, but they want to show the drone units. So you can explore. So we have a new food set up back there. So we want to have some free time together here. And also, I know that one faculty from science, she is planning to have a trash bin GIS on campus. So trash bin location, GIS activity just outside of our building. And also, we do have a geocaching event that we have a geocache boxes. I just put those yesterday afternoon. So, and then some of the tables already have a QR code with those pliers that it shows 7 QR codes. So each QR code shows each location of the geocache boxes. So that geocache box, if you found one, that has additional QR codes. So that when you scan it, QR code of each geocache box, then you can put your name and email address. So then we will run the, kind of sweepstake, and then I will contact back if you get some prizes, okay, at the end of this month. Okay, thank you so much. Enjoy your food, and then also drone is over there. Thank you.